This is TK Coleman, and you're listening to Small Business Edge by Ceteris. This is the podcast where we deconstruct small business entrepreneurship through conversations with franchisees, passion-based business owners, and other experts. We learn what it takes to succeed. Today's guest is Taylor Bartels, the president of Galleon Holdings, a management services company founded to provide advisory and management services to business ventures in the United States. And he is a franchisee for European Wax Center, your destination for all things waxing, skincare, and brows. Taylor, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Let's talk about your background. Did you always know that you wanted to be in the franchising world? Was this a deliberate path, or did you unwittingly stumble upon it?
No, I was voted most likely to own a body waxing franchise in my senior year of high school.
No way.
And, no, I guess I would describe myself as somewhat of an entrepreneur by accident. I got a degree in finance in 1993, and I'm good at financial analysis, and I also really like working with people. And I got into financial services where we sold mutual funds, stocks, bonds, insurance. And I really enjoy the analysis and the connecting with people and the sales part. And I like the impact that I was having on people's lives. But it was very entrepreneurial. I was on 100% commission right from the start. And I guess I just got kind of used to that mentality of creating for myself everything I have, and not receiving a salary, or not looking at what I was doing as a job, but rather looking at it as a whole lifestyle. It didn't happen that way. It wasn't my philosophy graduating from college at age 23, but it quickly morphed into that, and I found I liked it.
So you mentioned that when you were working in as a financial advisor, there was something about the entrepreneurial approach to that work that set the stage for you. We often talk about the distinction between being an entrepreneur and being entrepreneurial. What does that distinction mean to you? Well,
anyone can be an entrepreneur, but entrepreneurial spirit, I mean, there's a reason that those two words are often tied together. It's more of a philosophy. It's a lifestyle, and it's a way that you have to approach your business and your life in order to be successful in that realm. It's a combination of instincts and experience and willingness to fail and ability to inspire and connect and motivate people and lead, and also handle the business aspect of it, which is the financial part. And I think a lot of people have the capability to do one of those pieces, but the successful entrepreneurs, that entire package comes naturally to them.
So you believe that anyone can learn how to become an entrepreneur, that it's not about the personality you're born with?
No, it is totally about the person you're born with, I think. But can anyone open their own business and call themselves an entrepreneur? Yes. Will they be successful at it? Maybe. If you have the wrong personality, will you enjoy it, or will you achieve the success that you probably want? Probably not. And so my sister, for example, does not want to be an entrepreneur, and it's not in her personality. She could open her own business, but I don't think she'd get out of it what I would, for example.
Now, if someone, let's say you're in the curious position of starting your own business because maybe you bought into the vision of financial independence and you felt like you can't work for anyone else. You want to be the one calling the shots. But then maybe 1 to 2 years in, you start to have questions about whether or not you are the entrepreneurial personality type. What recommendations, what advice would you offer to someone in that situation?
Well, I guess it depends on your financial situation. Do you have the ability to get out of it? I think that if we're not doing what we want to do and what we find a lot of pleasure in, that doesn't inspire us and have us skip out the door in the morning, then we're doing the wrong things. And there's a lot of excitement I get about sitting on my computer at 7 o'clock on a Sunday night for 3 hours doing work stuff in order to be ready for the next morning. And if you don't have that inside you, if that's not what is making your clock tick, then you should probably look to sell or look for a strategy to turn what you're doing into something that does provide more satisfaction to you. Now, that's not easy. Mm-hmm. That's a toughie. I mean, what if you can't sell the business for what you've got into it? What if, you need to gut it out for 4 more years, but the longer you go, the less you like it. And then the less you like it, that's being communicated to the other people who work with you. Whether you want to communicate it or not, you're giving off the vibes. And what if you, slowly, progressively find that you've lost your motivation, and now the business that you put $500,000 into, originally it wasn't worth that because it was new and it didn't have sales. But then as it progresses, and you're not invested as much into it emotionally, now it doesn't achieve the success you want. It just becomes this albatross around your neck. And that's how entrepreneurs end up losing a lot of money. I think so. You really got to really think a lot about it before you get into it. Really think, is this what I think it is? Do I see myself really doing this? And really find out what is going to be involved in this. Not just, I'm going to own my own business, I'm going to have freedom, I'm going to have this great life, and I'm calling the shots. Okay, yeah, you're calling the shots, and you're also not calling the shots when there's a water leak at 2 a.m. and you're there. Are you aware that that's going to happen? Are you aware that somebody who's supposed to open your business at 9 a.m. is going to no call, no show on you? And then you're going to have customers standing outside. How are you going to solve that problem? Those are the things that as a business owner can really get you down, and that you have to know going in that you're able to handle it.
That's a really interesting point, because I think there's a common misconception that going the entrepreneurial path is about not working for anyone else. And if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying not only is that not true, you are working for someone else, but you actually have mini bosses, because now you have a bunch of customers that you have to answer to, and it's probably even more challenging in some ways.
Well, what I tell our managers is, we are not the boss. I tell the managers, you're coming to me, you're talking to me like I'm the boss. I'm not the boss. The customers are the boss. The customers will dictate to us what we need to do differently, what we're doing well, what we're not succeeding in, and make it very clear to us how we can serve them better. And I think that you have to have that philosophy as a successful business owner. And if you think that you're going to get on your high horse and use being the boss as a power trip, it will not end well for you, because you're going to end up being deaf to a lot of the feedback that you're getting about how to be successful and how to serve your customers. And ultimately, somebody will fill that void, and the customers will go somewhere else.
Now, let's talk about that, the customer's option to go somewhere else. We live in a highly competitive world now, and if a customer is dissatisfied, it's easy for them to just say, well, I'm done here. I'm going to go see, give someone else my business. How do you get that feedback that allows you to get better while still preserving the opportunity to keep their business?
Well, that's a toughie. You have to be looking at a couple things. One is overall foot traffic trends in your business. Obviously, businesses have seasonal irregularities. They have seasonal ebb and flow. And are we tuned into what the ebb and flow is? And then are we noticing anomalies in that typical pattern? So if you are expecting December to be a great month and December is only an average month, you really need to take a hard look at why that happened, and then try to take corrective action if it's something that you can control. If it's something out of your control, we had a lot of bad weather, we had this or that, then that's different. But really trying to keep your finger on the pulse of the trends of your business is really important. And then really engaging with customers to write reviews of your business, to ask them in the center. We ask everybody, how was everything today? How was your service today? We encourage them to give us feedback so that we know there are things that we can correct if they're not going the way we want.
Taylor, when you first began, did you know a lot about building successful teams, or were you one of those guys who felt like, you know what, I know what I need to know, and I can bring my sense of entrepreneurialism to this and succeed?
No, I've always been a pretty good person at leading groups and leading teams and being a leader within a group. So I did not find that to be challenging at all. And in the other business we were in, we did not have, we ran a real estate development business before this. So we had a lot of subcontractors and other people who worked with us, but they weren't direct employees. And it's a little bit of a different relationship, but still you have to be setting the tone with an environment in which people want to work with you and want to succeed. So for me, that was a pretty easy thing to do. But you have to check your ego at the door, and you have to be humble, and that's very important.
All right, let's talk about what you said earlier with regards to satisfaction, and how if you are not pursuing a path that brings some sense of meaning, you might want to reconsider. What made you choose this particular path of all of the kinds of businesses you could have gone into? Why did you choose Wax Center?
Well, my wife and I ran a business through most of the early 2000s. We completely renovated old apartment buildings and either sold them as condominiums or sold them as fixed up apartment buildings, just depending upon the particular building. And that ended with the Great Recession. We did not go out of business, but the business model was no longer applicable. So we looked around at what business could we get in that would suit our strengths. We had a list of criteria, and my wife actually suggested franchises. I thought, well, we're going to go and start a whole nother new business from scratch, which is a ton of work. And she said, hey, why don't we look at franchises? Maybe there's some opportunities there. We didn't know anything about franchises, but we had a friend who was a big wig at Massage Envy, and we spoke with him. And he kind of laid out, this is what good franchise financials will look like, and this is what poor franchise financials will look like. And he said, when your manager quits, are you going to enjoy working there? And that really stuck with us, because that eliminated for us about 95% of the franchises in the United States. And he also suggested to us that there was a new franchise called European Wax Center that had no locations in Colorado that we could get into, that was really taking off and had a lot of upside, because at least at the time, it was basically a competitive-less environment. And we had the chance to get in with a brand that was on its way to becoming the 800-pound gorilla in the market. So that was step one of being interested in the Wax Center. Now, personally, I thought it was a ridiculous idea that we could own a whole business around body waxing. And I envisioned in my mind a wax center that looked nothing like ours do now. It was not very glamorous and not very exciting. And the prospects in my mind were bleak. But we went and looked at a wax center that was under construction, and it blew me away how beautiful it was, and the systems and the setup. And I realized it was a real deal. And so I started asking around, canvassing about demand for waxing, who was our typical customer, all that type of stuff, and really believed we could be successful at it. And we made a great choice. It's worked out super for us.
It sounds like it. Now, when you first began, did you encounter any kind of unanticipated challenges? And if so, is there anything that you'd be willing to share that kind of provides some insight?
Yeah, we were awful at the beginning, but we ran a real estate development company dealing mostly with men, and mostly with men who were working in construction. So now we were dealing with typically women under 30, and we did not have the proper perspective on how to effectively manage them. And we didn't know what type of a person would be a good fit within a wax center or within our business. And I think that's a really huge piece for anybody getting into business, is know what the profile of a successful employee of your business looks like. We had no idea. We hired a person with social anxiety. We didn't know she had social anxiety till she started, and then she admitted it. And we thought, well, okay, well, maybe she's just going to be the quiet type. But, it turns out that interacting with our customers was petrifying for her. So we learned to hone our interview process, how we do second interviews, the questions that we ask, and then we also have experimented with them doing shadowing or kind of come to work with us for a day type events to see if what they're going to, get out of a day with us is what is good for them as well as good for us.
Taylor, for anyone who is thinking about going into the franchising world, but they're a little bit intimidated and overwhelmed, what kind of advice could you offer them for getting started?
Well, just like any large endeavor, you should break it down into pieces, manageable bite-size pieces. So step one, look at the business. Do you want to be in that business? On the worst day in that business, are you going to still enjoy it, or will you be able to handle it? If the answer is yes, then take a look at the financials. Is it a business model that's going to provide you financially the lifestyle that you want? Then step three would be, how do I put this all together? And do I need financing? And what are the steps required for me to move this ball down the field?
Taylor, thanks so much for taking some time to share your story and provide your unique insights into the franchising world. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. For added insights and a full collection of episodes from Small Business Edge, visit Ceteris.com/podcast.